Okay. Well, welcome everyone. This is the Hydes Ferry Road traffic calming meeting. This evening is March 21st, 2024. We're here at 7 p.m. Meeting virtually. So we can go ahead and get started. First thing we're just going to talk about is zoom way out and ask what is traffic calming. This is a residential program for neighborhoods, kind of smaller streets, not ones that are really wide like County Hospital Road or Clarksville Pike. Those are ones that are a little too large. But in the more residential, more neighborhood ends of the street network, we do these projects. We focus on physical solutions over significant lengths. So a physical solution is like an actual object that is designed to reduce speed. I know y'all have some speed cushions on Hinkle, so I'm sure y'all are fairly familiar with what we're talking about. And then we do it over significant lengths. All that really means is we try not to do these projects like one block at a time. So if we get an application and it looks like we need to think a little more broadly, we sometimes do that. And then lastly, the primary goal of what these projects are here for is reducing speeds on the roads. There are 3 E's of traffic calming. Those are education, enforcement, and engineering. Engineering is bold and underlined there because that's what NDOT is really good at. That's what they have control over. And it's how we're really going to lean on that E for this project. But we also like to acknowledge that traffic calming can happen with education, making sure people are aware of speeding and its associated consequences. And then enforcement is a little bit less NDOT's territory and more in the hands of Metro Nashville Police Department. As much as everyone would like for police to be enforcing speeds everywhere all at once, they simply do not have the time. They've got a lot of stuff they're responsible for, and we can't rely on only enforcement to encourage safe driving. So to sort of reiterate why speed is our primary goal here, or the reduction of speed, it's really all comes down to safety. So we have pedestrians walking on streets, cyclists using them. Sometimes our dogs run out into the road, and we want to make sure that while folks are driving in our neighborhoods, they're going at speeds that are not excessively dangerous to people. So this infographic down in the bottom is a nice representation of how the danger increases as speeds increase. So if you were to be struck as a pedestrian by a car going 25 miles an hour, you have a pretty good chance of surviving. I mean, 89% is not a bet I would like to take. Certainly, 11% chance of fatality is also very high in that scenario, but it only gets worse as cars go faster in that 35 to 45 mile an hour range. We can see those chances of survival really go down to about a third. And there are streets where driving at higher speeds is appropriate, but not on the ones that we all live on and live our lives. This is a really popular program. So we were sort of discussing before the meeting, there's been a lot of demand for traffic calming in Nashville. And when Hydes Ferry was selected, there were over 500 neighborhood streets who have asked for traffic calming. In the summer of 2023, we were able to select 85 of them, which is higher than usual. So we've been busy working our way through that set of projects. But just to sort of see where traffic calming is important, all of these purple lines on that map of Davidson County, those represent a street who's applied for traffic calming. So we can see it's pretty much everywhere in the county. There are, of course, some areas that are a little less dense up in the, to the northwest side. Those are more country roads and such, but basically the rest of the area is covered to some degree. Now there are a few things that traffic calming program, the traffic calming got. Cool. Well, I'll pick right back on up then. So this is Hub Nashville. You can call 311, go to hub.nashville.gov, or download the app. All are get you to the same thing, but it's a great spot to make requests to the city that may not fall under the scope of a traffic calming project. This slide here is intended to clarify a little bit how Hydes Ferry got selected, or how any traffic calming project gets selected. So when you all applied through the traffic calming program, we went and collected data on Hydes Ferry, and then plugged that into our scoring formula, and that is shown to the right here. So basically what we do, we measure how fast cars are going. That's weighted at like 45%, because that's really what we're here to address. Volume, that's how many cars are driving on it every day. We consider that pretty heavily too, because if you have one car that goes 50 miles an hour, that's obviously less dangerous than 100 cars that go 50 miles an hour. And then those three smaller slices are vulnerable user injury or fatality. So that's if a pedestrian has already been hit by a vehicle on your street. We'll give you a scoring bump there, just because it's another way to observe that there is a problem needing to be addressed. Non-driver accommodations, that's really asking, like, does this street have sidewalks? And if you do have sidewalks, it actually, you don't get that scoring. And the reason for that is if a street doesn't have sidewalks, we know that it's imperative we make the street as safe as we can, because there's nowhere else to walk. Trip destinations, those are really how close is your street to parks and schools. Reasoning behind that is we know that parks generate pedestrian trips. Schools, we want to make sure anyone who may be walking or biking to school is safe when they're doing that. So about Hydes Ferry specifically, the data we collected was we found an 85th percentile speed of 35 miles an hour. So that 85th percentile speed, that's kind of like the median, but rather than 50% of people going slower and 50% of people going faster, that just means that 15% of people are going faster than 35 miles an hour, where 85% are going 35 or slower. And then the volume, we counted 367 vehicles per day. That's actually relatively low for a traffic calming project, but that tells me that the speed is quite high, and there may have been some of those other factors that made sure you all were selected for traffic calming. This is just a map showing a bit of context on the project. We see that Viking Street has applied as well. That's a purple line. A green line on this map means you've been selected, so we're working on it in some capacity, but it hasn't been built. And then blue lines are projects that have been built already. So it looks like this may be a little bit out of date, but Hinkle Drive, would be a blue line on that map.
Yeah, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, because on the map online, I see I was asking, like I asked you a question earlier about the ones on Panorama and Snail.
Yep.
The map online, it does have them as blue, the dark blue lines. And the one on Hinkle, it does have it as the dotted line showing it's complete. And yeah, the Snail and Panorama, the dark lines, it has it as in the construction queue. So
Yep.
yeah, the Viking, I saw the Viking where an application was submitted, and then the green one that you're showing there. Okay, I understand that. That's good. I was just
Great.
wanting to make sure I was seeing the right one online as well.
Yeah, you are. And interestingly, this was made right before we made some updates to how those colors show up on the.
Okay.
So it looks slightly different, but the reasoning for that is so that we can provide a little more information and a few more stages to those projects. But it sounds like you found it, and I
did, and it gives a good snapshot because I see all four. I see the Snail, I see the Panorama, I see the Hinkle, I see the Viking, and I see the markings for the Hydes Ferry. So yeah, that online is a good update because I printed that off. That's really good.
Perfect. So do we have any questions before I move on to some of the tools that we have in the toolkit?
I have a question. Can y'all hear me?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Hey, Ruby.
Hey.
So I live at 2728 Hydes Ferry, and my part of Hydes Ferry, we do have a sidewalk, thank goodness. But as you all know, it stops at Hinkle down there by the railroad track. So would the sidewalk go all the way down to Ashland City? Because we have a lot of kids walking to IT Crestwell. So it will expand all the way down to Ashland City Highway?
So I can answer that question. That's a sidewalk question, and they're not in the sidewalk program piece, but the sidewalk that we have, that you have on your street, was part of a CDB grant from MDHA when we did the sidewalks for our neighborhood. And so at that time, your side of Hydes Ferry is in District 1. The other side was in District 2. So that's why the sidewalk stopped at the end of your street. But this is the traffic calming. That other one was sidewalk. So we can talk more about that because that's another discussion that's happening with Walk Bike Nashville now that section is in District 1, because we got the gentleman in the wheelchair that comes down Leewood, goes around Hydes Ferry to try to make his way up to the bus stop, and there's no sidewalk there. So that's another discussion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess I got a little carried away when he was talking about the sidewalk.
That's okay. Just hold that thought, but that's for that meeting, and we'll talk about that at that meeting.
Okay.
That's okay, David. We're good. She's part of the neighborhood, and she comes to the community meetings. But this is the first traffic calming.
Traffic calming.
Yeah, this is just about the traffic calming.
But it is going all the way down Hydes Ferry.
Can't say that because that's just new to District 1. So that's a whole beginning discussion, totally separate. But yeah.
So it will stop at Hinkle, just in our neighborhood.
Right now, our stop at Hinkle, your stop at Hinkle, because that is District 1. Before the new district was added on the other side of the track.
Oh, yeah.
But
okay. Thanks for explaining that.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, thank you for fielding the question, Ruby. I appreciate all the context you gave.
Thank you.
Anything else before we move on?
Yeah, before she said that, I did have a question, and I was asking Dylan, but the process we went through for, I'm sorry, hold on. The process we went through for the speed cushions on Hinkle, and the process we went through for the speed cushions on Snail Boulevard and Panorama Drive, all were from the participatory budget. This project here for the sidewalks came through the traffic calming program. And when I look at the process out there, I'm just trying to understand what the next step would be, because I see where this was approved through the council in that winter 2023 budget. So the money in my mind is already allocated for Hydes Ferry's traffic calming. We're just now discussing the engineering and design phase. Is that right?
You're exactly correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So both it's been funded and Hydes Ferry has been selected. So now the only thing to do is finish up the design, have the residents, vote and just sort of affirm that you do want traffic calming, and then it will also join the construction queue.
And then how will you? And that's what I was saying. How will you know the residents support it? Because we already know. So what we did the other day, and one of the neighbors that live along with one of the neighbors that live on Hydes Ferry went door to door, and we got at least 25, 27 signatures or support at that time, just to grab some support for this, because there's about 50 houses, if that many, on about 50 on Hydes Ferry. So I would even say 60 to 70% of them are in support. So what will you need to show support? Signatures, phone calls, what can we do to help?
If you'll bear with me, I'm going to go into a lot of detail on that process toward the end of the presentation.
Okay.
If we're able to kind of blast through the tools, look at the design, have all kinds of time to talk about Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I'll go ahead and start talking about our various tools. I'll stop for questions again, so we have plenty of time to review everything, but we'll take a look at what we're looking at. So as y'all may be aware, the traffic calming program relies really heavily on speed cushions. Those are kind of the prime example of a physical solution that a traffic calming project consists of. And the reason we call it a physical solution is because it isn't regulatory. It's not a speed limit. It's not a sign that asks drivers to slow down. It's an actual impediment to those who are driving really fast. So if you're driving at an appropriate speed in that 25 miles an hour, these really aren't such a discomfort. But as you increase your speed, going over them becomes less and less comfortable for that driver. So NDOT's really been happy with how these have performed. They've noticed speeds do get reduced when they're installed, and that's really why they've been leaning on these so much in these projects, is just because they've seen so much success already. Related to speed cushions are speed tables. So these stretch all the way across the road. They're usually a little bit longer. As such, they take a little longer to install. It's more material. But the primary difference is that speed cushions have these gaps in the middle where there's actually no cushion at all. And that's important for emergency vehicles. So if a fire engine were to need to access, this neighborhood, it's got a little bit larger wheelbase than your typical car, and it has an easier time traversing a cushion because of those gaps in them. So all that is to say, we don't do speed tables often anymore. There are a few like pretty niche scenarios when we might bring one out just to address a specific oddity a street might experience. But speed cushions are really something that NDOT's been enjoying their success with so far. Like I mentioned,
I have
please.
a question on that screen. Can you go back to that for a second?
Yep. This one or the one before?
The one before.
Okay. Yep.
What determines the that white post there? I see it on some and I don't see it on all. So what determines when to place those there, and what are they for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we can, we try to arrange speed cushions such that cars cannot easily drive around them.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of times we do not need the white posts, but sometimes, say a bus route is on that street and they really want the cushions in the center of a lane, and there's not enough room on that outer edge, we might put a delineator in there to address that. Often if there's like a bike lane that we don't want to put cushions in, but we also don't want to leave that big of a gap for cars, we may use them there. So they kind of come out in to solve like a specific problem, but we don't do them with every speed cushion.
And what are they called again?
They've got all kinds of different names. I usually call them flexible delineators because if you were to like hit one with your car, it's not gonna stop you in your tracks. It'll just sort of
it's flexible.
Exactly. So
okay,
we will use those every now and again, but they're certainly not coming with every project.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure. Where I left off was I mentioned NDOT knows these work, and that's because they've done a limited study of before and after on certain projects. So the charts we're seeing here represent reduction in speed that were observed. So the average of those 6 projects were 31 miles an hour before and 22 miles an hour afterwards. And then the 85th percentile, like I discussed before, that's a little bit higher than the average. That reduced from 37 all the way down to 25. So they were pleased to know that they work. I mean, there's a lot of national research that also suggests that, but they were motivated to confirm that, the same results were present in Nashville. And because of this, we feel pretty confident that it's a method that succeeds in its aims. We're going to briefly touch on some of the other strategies we can mix into our designs in certain scenarios. This is one of them. Radar feedback signs are a speed limit sign, but it also has a solar panel and a display that will take your speed and tell you how fast you're going. These can be helpful in a couple scenarios. So if we have a road that we think that people just don't really know that they're going fast, say like a steep hill was involved, it's easy to speed up without really trying to. We can place one of these on that hill, and if you weren't intending to speed and you're informed like, hey, you're going 45 miles an hour, maybe slow down, that can work. Unlike speed cushions, they're not a physical solution. So if I'm driving by one at 45 miles an hour, nothing is going to stop me if I choose to ignore the sign. But they can be useful in certain situations. In addition to that, there's pavement narrowing. So on really wide roads, it can be quite comfortable to drive at a high speed because there's nothing close by. It feels a little bit more like an interstate or a multi-lane road. If we use white stripes on the edge of a roadway to sort of narrow it down, maybe like define some street parking or perhaps a small area that may be a little more comfortable to walk in, that can help drivers know like, hey, I should be hugging the middle of this road, and it feels like you may want to go a little bit slower just given the perceived reduction in space. Some things that we do in special circumstances are bulb outs and chicanes. So bulb outs are an intersection treatment that intend to bring a really large intersection down to a smaller size. And the advantage of a small intersection is twofold. First, you have to drive a little slower as you're navigating through it because you don't have as much room to take like a big sweeping fast turn. And then from the pedestrian side, if you want to cross the road, you've got a smaller distance where you're in conflict with vehicles, and it can be a more pleasant experience from that perspective. Chicanes are where you have a really wide, long stretch of road, and there's so much room that we can actually sort of define our own path within the straight road, but one that curves back and forth, so sort of a zigzag pattern. That slows cars down, not by making them go over speed bumps, but just making them do kind of turning maneuvers, and therefore you're not able to just hit the gas and gun it in a straight line. Yes.
No, I was just saying, it's more of a visual, more of a, what do you call it? It's more of a visual thing.
Yeah, exactly. So like if I really wanted to just drive super fast and straight, I wouldn't be stopped by anything besides the paint on the road. So you're correct. That being said, we do know that they work fairly well. Like these are installed in other parts of Nashville, and they don't often get people just treating it like a straight road. But it is certainly something that can happen, and we want to be aware of that. Lastly, and I guess least, we have traffic circles. We can do these on really large intersections. So say an intersection that was so big that even bulb outs don't really make sense. A traffic circle is kind of just like a small roundabout. And these are helpful when you have intersections where people aren't usually respecting like stop signs and stuff. It's just a different way to control the flow of an intersection that forces a little bit more paying attention and coordination with other drivers. And ultimately, it's a safety improvement we like doing, but they come up in pretty rare circumstances just because of the size required for them to work really well.
And I have another question. I have a question about that. They're
Sure.
referred to also as roundabouts, right?
Yeah, there's a slight technical difference. So a roundabout can be any size. So if you have like two state.
Okay, and so coming down like County Hospital Road is an arterial road and it's got truck traffic as well. It's not easy for the trucks and buses to maneuver around a roundabout unless you got enough space. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I was thinking. It in order for the trucks to come around that, just looking at that, that's a 4-lane. I mean, not 4-lane. Just looking
Two
at
lanes.
that's, but it's wider. No, that's a little wider than our 2-lane street. So even just in thought of, even just in thought of trying to put a roundabout there, the idea of it wouldn't work because there's not enough room that I see in my mind for 18-wheeler to move around that curve. But I'm just saying, because there were some that asked if that could be, if the thought could be a roundabout there, but I don't see it possible, and that's what I was saying.
That's what the call was in Hydes Ferry.
Somebody's not muted. That's not me. Let's see. I don't know who that phone number is. I thought you were asking me a question, but that was my point. A roundabout and the traffic circles, they have different uses, right?
Exactly. So traffic circles need to be pretty big to work. Roundabouts are even bigger.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
different tools, but same problem. And I can tell you, I've been out to Hydes Ferry, and I agree. I don't think that this is a particular street that's gonna have a traffic circle work for it.
Yeah. No, I was thinking more up our 4-way panorama and County Hospital Road. It was just a thought that came up, a question someone asked, but I explained it that there's not enough room. It's not wide enough that a roundabout wouldn't work right there, because especially because of the 18-wheeler traffic that comes that way and the bus, that they wouldn't be able to maneuver that. Anyway, so okay, go ahead, carry on. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, so that's the end of our tools. This is the concept that we put together to sort of demonstrate, after we took a look at Hydes Ferry, sort of what we think, would accomplish this goals of reducing speed. And as I alluded to earlier, we're basically proposing speed cushions because we know that they're an appropriate use.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I just got on like 15 minutes ago. I'm sorry. But you're talking about the cushions. Did you speak of the cushions on Hydes Ferry, the Hinkle part? I know there's cushions going Hinkle, Panorama, all through that area, but we never had the speed bumps on Hydes Ferry Road. And that's where that traffic is. It's a race car. It's like a racetrack.
Yeah.
And children are playing daily.
I'm sorry. That's what we're talking about. Are you live in Bordeaux Hills?
Yes, right. Yes, right on Hydes Ferry. As soon as you come over the tracks from where the trucks are, I'm on that street on the right. Yeah.
Yeah,
by the riverfront.
I'm on Leewood. I'm on the street behind you. So if you look can you see this screenshot that
No, see, I'm in my car. I just got off from work.
Okay, well, right now on the screen, Mr. Greaves has a screenshot that is showing at least right now, just estimate at least 4 speed cushions on Hydes Ferry. And just to quickly get you updated, we're in the discussion phase of the traffic calming for Hydes Ferry. So they're in the design phase and engineering phase. So right now, we're already looking at, he's showing us the screenshot of at least 4 speed cushions on Hydes Ferry. So just hold on. It looked like it's going to move forward. And then I'll get with them after this is over. So at our next community meeting, if they can release some things, we'll just show a quick snapshot of where we are. But that's
Okay.
we're getting there. Yeah, hold on. Hold on. Okay, sorry,
Thank you.
David. You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
And you're probably on my list. What's your address on Hydes Ferry?
2841 Hydes Ferry. I put it in every year. I apply for it. Speed bumps and sidewalks.
Yeah, so it's moving forward. So it was in the 2023 cycle that the council approved, along with maybe 50, 60 other 55 other streets, and Hydes Ferry was one. So it's moving forward. So you can call me if you like after this, and I can give you an update. But right now, that's exactly what we're in the middle of. So yeah, took a long time coming, but it's here. So yet hold on. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Oh, I'm Ruby Baker. I'm the president of our neighborhood association. So I was going to already
jot my
give
number down, because I don't have no information to even jot your number down. If you can see my number on the screen, normally you can when it's not showing.
It's kind of blocked out. 615-6 ... 30 It's blocked out.
668-3130.
668
what? 3130.
3130.
Mm-hmm.
And you're at 2841?
That's correct.
I'm sorry, David. What was your name again, Miss Lady?
LaTanya Lyons.
Okay. Okay. I'll text you my number. We can talk later, okay?
Okay. All right. Thank y'all so much.
All
right.
Of course. Well, yeah, so that pretty much covers it. We are proposing 4 sets of speed cushions. That number was chosen based on the length of Hydes Ferry and an ideal spacing where we sort of work out, we don't want them so close together that they're really disruptive to people who live there, but we want them close enough together that you can't speed back up to a dangerous speed before you have to slow down for the next one.
That's what I was going to ask you, how you, I'm sure you determined how many based on how long that street is.
Exactly. Yeah. So between 300 and 500 feet is the range we shoot for. And then after that, it's just a matter of coordinating around hills and making sure that we're not putting these too close to anyone's, driveway, for instance, since we don't want to obstruct that for anyone.
Yeah, I think this will this is just a deterrent. This is not going to, I'm just saying that this is what I'll say to them, like we did during the one on Hinkle. This is not going to stop the speeding. It's going to slow it down. There's more of a driver behavior that has to change, but we've seen the effects of it on Hinkle. Some disagree and some agree, but it slowed it down. That's what we wanted it to do. So it didn't stop it, but it slowed it down, and it's not going to address ATVs or motorcycles. That was one of the concerns that they had. Why didn't it go straight across? But these were not those that go straight across, just like you explained the tables. That's not what these were. So yeah, motorcycles can still speed right through there, but a car can't straddle. Like with that, a car couldn't straddle it. But I understood that the space in between was wide enough, so we did not want to slow down emergency vehicles. They can just keep straight on, but this was more to just kind of slow it down a bit. And then we did the reduction in the speed limit, just like with how you were mentioning in the other PowerPoint, reducing the speed limit down to 25. That's not going to stop the speeding. It's just going to minimize the impact from being hit at 25 as opposed to 35, 40, and 50. So it's just a matter of just educating and explaining what we're doing so they'll know that we're diligently working to make our neighborhoods safer. And so I thank you, David, and I thank you, Dylan, for your engineering.
And yeah, you make a good point. And I'm actually curious to hear what you all have observed on Hinkle. we've sort of wondered how motorcycles deal with these cushions. Yeah, obviously, from a physical space perspective, you are still able to.
Yeah, they go right through them, and that's what
Do
we
they
did.
still go? Do they still go pretty fast? I'm not a
Yeah,
motorcycle myself. Okay,
yeah,
that's
we
all.
can't stop the motorcycles or the ATVs because that's more of a just like you see a skateboard is that, like, you know, they look for little hills and humps and things like that.
Mhm.
This was more of a entertaining thing for those on these ATVs. So we can't address everything. We were more trying to slow the cars down. The ATVs, they love this. They just hump right over it and give them that little lift. And then you have the motorcycles. So it's more like entertaining to them. So they'll swerve this way and swerve that way and swerve this way. So we can't address everything. This was mainly to slow down the cars, but it'll be something else for the motorcycles later. But something else that happened, not with ours, but in another neighborhood. That's why I was asking about those pendulums, those dealing. That's why I was asking about those posts, because what one neighborhood in East Nashville, the problem they were having on one particular street is the cars were going around the speed bump into the yard, just to anything to avoid that little couple of seconds of going over. So, you know, it's more, like I said, more driver behavior. If they want to, you know, jump over it and mess up their cars, that's on them. But the going to the right, going in the yard, anything, but those speed delineators, those little flexible things, it kind of helped in some of those yards that were getting trampled on, or you got somebody blowing a horn in the middle of the night because they're frustrated because they got to slow down. So those are some of the stories. Those are some of the stories that I hear coming along Hinkle. And it's like, but you know, again, driver behavior, we can't change that, but we did slow the speed down and made it safer. We reached that goal. But yeah, that's what happens, David, on Hinkle with us. Some didn't like them, but we had almost 85% of the people that voted for them. So it was more that wanted it than those that did not. And so you can't please everybody, but we were just trying to keep you safe. Backing out of your driveway, it helps, because that was a straight shot, just like Hydes Ferry. You get at the top of that, that's a straight shot from that dead end up there. Like if you're looking at your screen right there at Viking, that dead end right there, that's a straight shot from there straight to the stop sign. So I took pictures of that the other day. That's why I was asking if you went out there and you saw it. But this is definitely going to help slow that down, because that's just a racetrack right there.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
That's the hope, and I'm certainly sorry to hear that there's been, you know, difficult experiences on Hinkle as well. Certainly,
but I'm telling you, the positive outweighed that. We couldn't fix everything, but there's still, you know, I don't care how much you do, somebody's still going to complain.
Yeah.
But the majority of the people that came out and voted for it, if there were 100 people on Hinkle, maybe 90 of them came out. That's why they got number one. So it's like we want it. So
yeah,
yes,
that's great to hear, and it's actually a pretty good segue into talking about kind of the next steps in the voting process. But before we do that, I want to make sure, does anyone have questions about the design specifically before we move on to the sort of next steps and logistics of the project?
Do you mind if I comment? Oh, go for it.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say something very quickly. I am so grateful for these speed cushions. About 20 months ago, there was a teenage girl, and she had some teenagers in her car. She was going so fast down Hydes Ferry. Something happened to her wheel. She landed in my yard. She hit my car, and she hit one of the cars that was in my driveway, and her car stopped right at my in front of my porch. And there was a 9-year-old boy. He was in the back of the car, and he was stuck in the car. So, and we had police, ambulance, and everything on Hydes Ferry. So I'm glad that these speed cushions is going to be on Hydes Ferry, because she landed right in my yard. So and it
I
was
remember that.
for everybody. Yeah, this happened about 20 months ago. So
Yeah.
that's I wanted to say that. No more.
That's great to know, and I'm sorry that happened. It sounds
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, and that's and that's why I was saying too, David, that we got, I know I'm looking at least 25, 26 people off of Hydes Ferry that totally support this. Now you're gonna still have some to say no, but then that's a given. But that's just scratching the surface that one day that one person went out and knocked doors and was able to talk to people that were there. And that was just within a couple of hours. You got, I'm looking at least 26 people that says, yes, I support speed cushions. So if I need, if I need to go and get more, because I think we're probably missing maybe another 20 houses, people were not there, but I'm comfortable to say, we want to move forward with this, and it's already in rotation anyway, so it's going to happen. So we're good. We're good. We're good.
So,
and it's going to slow down. Yeah.
So you say you get ready to cover the voting process?
Yes. Are we ready to move on to that?
Yeah.
One quick thing, if I can interject. I live nearby, not on Hydes Ferry right there itself, but I was wondering if it might be possible to do some of those bump outs that you were talking about on Hinkle and Viking, because I noticed that those intersections are about like 30 feet wide where the road comes in. And the question that I asked about sharing is, I know that NDOT in some other areas has done
bump outs at the intersection of Hydes Ferry and Hinkle Drive.
And then Viking too, maybe just to kind of narrow those intersections to about 22 feet, which is what NDOT kind of prefers that they are anyways. Because I noticed that there's often burnouts in those intersections, and you can actually see them on Google Earth. So I thought if those intersections were a little smaller, they wouldn't inconvenience anyone who's driving reasonably, but they might make it so people who are driving unreasonably don't have as much room to party in there. And so if you're walking, it's not as far of a distance to cross either.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear his question. Can you repeat that, David? I'm not.
Yeah, and I'll sort of go back to the relevant slide as well. So he suggested we take a look at adding bulb outs to the two intersections at the end of Hydes Ferry. And certainly we're more than willing to consider it. So we haven't finished the design yet. This is just meeting one where we're getting feedback and such. So before I finish the plans, what I'll do is look at adding some bulb outs. I almost certainly we can, unless I hear very strong preferences that other people really don't want them. I'll go ahead and do it. But yeah, I agree. If you all are perceiving that people are using that intersection improperly, doing donuts and burnouts and such, and that would be something we could take a look at doing.
Which corner are we talking about? Looking at that, which corner are we talking about? Mr. Ian, where are we talking about?
So I mentioned both corners because I think they would work fine in both corners, but I think if it's one or the other, Hinkle is definitely the one to go with.
Where the three-way stop sign is?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, because I didn't know if that's something that you could address, David, but if you can, that would be great. Because we also have some other concerns about that corner right there. Because they just totally demolished our stop sign the other day, a couple of weeks ago. And what happened was it was one of the 18-wheelers leaving from that Marathon oil terminal. It was a new driver from out of town that didn't know that that's not a cut through, but he just ignored the sign. And he tried to make that turn right there at Hinkle and just knocked the stop sign right on over out the ground.
Thanks for explaining that, Ruby. I was wondering what happened to that.
Yeah.
That was a nice stop sign. That was a nice stop
sign. He came out of the truck. He didn't turn into the truck terminal where he should have on the other side of the track. he kept straight and made that right turn and just took that whole stop sign
Yes.
up
Okay.
out the ground.
I was wondering what happened.
And I was trying to see, and then when he got all the way over the tracks and all the way around Hinkle, him trying to make that turn to get out of the neighborhood, he almost took out that fence up there.
Mm-hmm.
So he was not even, I'm just assuming he wasn't from here. Otherwise, he was still violating because the sign there clearly say,
Yeah.
you know, not in the residential, but he did, and he got stuck on that
Oh.
corner. So the camera from the marathon catches that, but I couldn't get the TDOT information because it's on the door of the 18-wheeler, and the camera was like behind. But anyway, and it's up to us to replace that because that was a decorative sign that we put there. But TDOT came right out. NDOT, they came right out. Took a couple of days, but that's why that regular stop sign is up there. But that whole little corner is what we're trying to address. But you know,
that's all great information to have. So like I said, I've been out to Hydes Ferry before and took a look around. And yeah, I agree that intersection is a little bigger than it needs to be. So I think what the plan is going to be is I'll add bulb outs to this concept, definitely at Hinkle and Hydes Ferry. I'll take a look at Viking Road.
I think that would help up there as well, because once these speed cushions go in, that traffic coming from right to left, when they try to make that turn right there, they will go right into that corner yard there and just tear the fence and everything up. But that hadn't happened. I haven't seen it happen in a minute. But speeding up there, trying to make that right turn, you know, it's just, if you can look, I would like for you to look at both. You know, if we can get some, what do you call them, chicanes or bub outs, if you can do that for both, if it can be done, if you can do it, please do it.
Well, Miss Ruby, from one of the neighbors that stayed down at the end.
I'm sorry, say that again. I'm sorry, can you say?
One of the neighbors that stays down there at the end, they're back in, he said that car got hit down there, I think last year or the year before and stuff, them speeding down there in that area. Yeah.
Is that you, Mr. Gilbert?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. But yeah, you're right. But then, David, then you said it had to be the permission, you had to get some kind of permission, okay, from the people that live there on that corner?
No. So we'll, if it is a spot that seems like it would be good, and it sounds like from what I'm hearing, both of those corners could use it. Then we don't need permission from specific property owners to move forward. So I think I like that plan. I'll go ahead and make those, like each of those corners, a part of the design and include them in the construction plans. And we'll move forward that way. But yeah, thank you all for bringing it up. Like I said, we're here to hear what you all think about the street, and that's really valuable information for us.
Yeah, and this is their street. I mean, they drive it every day. I only come to the stop sign, make my little turn, and come on about my little street. But yeah, they're the ones that's got to pull in and out of driveways, got to deal with all of that. So anything we can do to help them. Thank you, Ben, whoever you are, for bringing that up as well, bringing that to the table. So yeah,
Ben.
Anything else? Anything else, guys? I think you've answered my questions, David. So I'm good. I'm just waiting to see what your design is going to look like. How will we see it?
That's a perfect segue into the next section. So I'm going to talk about kind of the flow chart of the program overall, and then we can zoom into whichever pieces of the process we need to talk more about. So like I mentioned, this street was selected because it was applied for. So an application was submitted to NDOT. We collected data, compared it against all the other streets in the queue. And now we're at this red circle having our first neighborhood meeting about the project. So this is where we go over kind of the general concept, like we just mentioned, get feedback, sort of get a feel for what else we may need to include in the design or consider. And then the next step, of course, is the final design. So what I'm going to do is produce a set of plans that are detailed enough that a contractor can take them and go build the project. And those will show, like exactly where does that cushion go? Where does that cushion go? How wide are they across? And then, of course, the addition of those bulb outs we just discussed. After the design, we can go one of two ways. We can either post the plans online for residents to review and then get postcards in the mail to vote as a street on whether or not you all want the project to move forward. It sounds like you've done a great amount of work ahead of time and sort of confirming that most people are good with getting traffic calming, so that's good news. What we can also do is have a second neighborhood meeting where we review the design as a group and talk about it, answer more questions, review some of the information for anyone who wasn't able to make it tonight. But that does add some time to the schedule, and that's sort of the two things we want to balance against. So at this meeting tonight, we can decide, would we rather look at the plans and then vote, or do we want to review those plans as a group in a similar meeting to this and have more of a dialogue about it? I'm happy to answer any questions about that, or if anyone knows they want a second meeting, feel free to let me know. We're more than happy to have one. Goes without saying, but want to make sure y'all are aware. But we also want to make sure that if you are really eager to just move forward as quickly as possible, the option to forgo a second meeting is available as well.
I said, let's move on forward so we can get it done.
I thought my voice was on. If I could comment, I want to hear them as well, and then go ahead, Mr. Gilbert and Ms. Deidre. That I want to hear what you have to say, and I think Ben is on there too still.
I said, well, let's get it moving forward and get it done. And we just, see, you said, via mailer ID, letting people know and stuff. And I hit the pavement and remind everybody to go vote and stuff for it. Now, would this be similar to like when we did the voting at the library for another resident?
No, that was different. That was during the participatory budget. That was a different kind of vote. I mean, this is not the participatory budget, but they have a process that you could vote. My concern with that is we may have people that don't live there on that street that may not see the importance of it or urgency of it like you do. So if there was a way without trying to exclude people, which they have a right to comment, but I want to make sure that it is the people on Hydes Ferry that has the dominant say, or we make it as fair as we can, but if we got to do more pounding the pavement to get people to vote, then we'll do that. So if there's a paper ballot that we need to move physically, then we'll do that, so we can make sure your street's voice is the loudest, because that's the challenge that we had with Hinkle. So we had to pound the pavement, knock on the door, make sure people got up there to vote. I had, we gave ballots to people. We wanted to make sure that street had the loudest voice. And that's the same thing that I want to see happen with this street. So my comment is, I'm comfortable with saying, let's move forward. Ms. Lyons and anybody else, they've been waiting on this for a minute. And if we don't have to have another meeting, and I'm comfortable knowing that more than half the people said yes, move on. I don't want us to get behind in their process, because you do have 60 people on this round, 60 streets, and I don't want to miss a beat, but I'm all for moving forward. So if that means
I'll talk about some specifics about the balloting so you all know exactly what's going to happen. you made a couple of really good points that I think the next two slides will address pretty specifically. So how this works is we're going to send postcards to all of the property owners on Hydes Ferry.
Okay.
They'll have instructions on how to vote, a unique ID code as a sticker on one side. That's to help us make sure that everyone who's submitting a vote is doing so properly and no one's voting more times than they should, or no one who shouldn't be voting is voting. We're able to really use those to know that we're getting the right responses from the people who are on Hydes Ferry. It does take 66% of respondents to vote yes for it to move forward. So it's kind of like any other election. It's just the folks who vote that have their opinion considered. So you don't need to get 66% of all of the residents to say yes. Just out of everyone who said yes or no, if 2/3 said yes, that's a successful vote. I will say that threshold feels kind of high, but even so, almost all of the traffic calming program projects we've done recently have passed. And I think that's because, with 500 streets in the queue and only choosing the, top 25 or 60 most dangerous ones, usually most of the people on the street, are in support. So there's going to be a ballot period that's open for 6 weeks. And that's just to make sure that projects don't get behind or stuck or hung up somewhere. But we do feel like 6 weeks is enough time for anyone who does want to vote to be able to go online and say yes or no in that form. And then after that, we'll, count up the votes and let y'all know if it's going to proceed. One more thing about voting online, you can also call NDOT if that's your preference. So there's going to be a phone number on the postcard. And if you'd rather, call and have someone record your vote that way, we're willing to do that as well.
How can we help with that? Can you go back to that screen for a second?
Yeah.
How can we help without interfering? Because that's one of the challenges with the participatory budget. Okay, so you can put it out there and you can make all these ways to vote available, but getting them to do it is where we had to do the push, reminding them, physically taking the ballot to them, or holding I was even up at the library saying you can drive through and drop it off. So how can we help without interfering? Because, some thought we cheated, but we did a lot of legwork to make sure you got your vote in, you picked it. So how can we make sure how can we help with this?
So the best thing to do, when we send the ballots, we're going to let your council person know. If anyone else would like to be informed, I think, Ruby, you may be a good person for this.
I definitely want to be informed. Yeah,
okay.
Because I would have more reach with our neighborhood than she would, but I want to make sure we stay within your time restraints and that we get this thing done.
Yeah. So when the ballots get sent out, so if one neighbor gets a postcard, by all means, let everyone know, hey, you've gotten a postcard. Don't throw all your mail in the trash this week. Just make sure that people are aware that those are hitting their mailboxes. That would be good. If for some reason somebody thinks that they should have gotten a postcard but didn't, they're welcome to send me an email and just ask, like, hey, I didn't get a postcard. Can you send me the unique ID so I can vote? I'll be able to look up someone who's trying to do that. And if they have a unique ID to vote, then I'm happy to provide it that way as well.
What are you referring to as a unique ID based on their address? So I guess my question is, do you have blank ballots or blank postcards? Do you have some that I can give out? If I talk to somebody and they say, no, I didn't get one, well, call David and go through this and go through that. So how can I speed up that process without interfering is what I'm saying. So Is it
Yeah.
something I can do?
I would say just spreading the word that postcards that look like this. So the top
Went
left
out.
image, that's what the postcard is going to be.
Okay.
Making folks aware that those are headed their way is the most important thing. About the unique ID, if I told everyone how they were generated, that would risk someone being able to like know their neighbor's unique
That's
ID.
what I was saying. Yeah.
Okay.
That would be,
So
that's
I'm keeping that part secret for the good of
That's
my
fine.
community here, but
if I can refer them to you, if we hear, or, if we know Miss So-and-so says she didn't get it or she accidentally threw it away, then we can do what we can to make sure you are aware of that person, even if I have to send you an email, because she may not have an email and she may not be able to vote online. I just want to make sure that there's no hiccup in between them being able to get notified and turn it in if need be. And then I have one final question after somebody else asked, because I need numbers.
I think it's a good process that they have the option to call it in, because some people are not technical savvy stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want the survey to be a barrier for anyone to vote. It's there for convenience, but we're happy to help over the phone as well if necessary. Before we move on, I want to just make sure I cover these specific points to answer some questions about who is going to be receiving these ballots. And
I got that list.
So unlike participatory budget projects where the whole neighborhood is involved, in the traffic calming program, we limit it to the people on the street itself. And one of the reasons for that was touched on earlier, and it's that the further you are away from the street, the more likely you are just using it as driving, and you're not the ones like walking on it necessarily. So that is our line on like what area of people are voting on this, and it's that yellow zone there. So just folks with property that abut the right of way. One thing that's worth knowing is that we generate this list from Metro Nashville's public property records. So what that means is
no, go ahead. I was just let me mute me because I'm agreeing with you. Let me mute me.
Renting mailbox. Okay, yeah. So certainly anyone who's renting, if they feel strongly, we would invite them to, get with who you're renting from and let them know, like, hey, I think this would make the street a lot better. But ultimately, that's the policy we're working with. Some of the finer point rules are that if an owner has multiple properties on a street, that individual will just vote once. So we don't want, if you own 10 properties, you don't get to vote 10 times, you just get to vote once like everyone else. If property is vacant, we don't consider that person as voting because they're not living there, obviously, and nobody is. And then finally, like businesses are ineligible because they're not, a resident of that particular spot. One thing to clarify when I say businesses, it's like visibly operating businesses. So we're not going to let the marathon vote. But if, say, your house is owned by such and such LLC, but it is your house and you're living there, that should be fine. We're not going to do that.
What about Airbnb?
What about what?
Airbnb.
Say that again. I didn't quite catch it.
Like an
Are you talking about Airbnb property?
Airbnb. Yeah. Yeah. So we have easy terms to like look at a house and know that's an Airbnb or isn't it. So we'll send that postcard to whoever owns the Airbnb. I wouldn't imagine that their opinions about it are going to be like radically different than folks that live in the place they occupy, but it is possible. So anyway, to answer your question, if a house is an Airbnb, we don't know that it is. We'll send the postcard.
You wouldn't know that it is. But Mr. Gilbert, I can we can if you are you on your phone, can you see the screen that he's got up that said ballot zone?
Yes, I can see the screen.
So all of those properties that are yellow
Mm-hmm.
would be the one that would be on their mailing list.
I got to
So
understand.
if the landlord owns that property and on these lists of people that, even if some that you may have talked to, like you asked me the other day, what about renters? What we would have to do is make sure because that mail is going, that postcard is going to go to that landlord's address. And if they have a PO box, it's going to go there and it's going to sit there. So that tenant that's on Hydes Ferry, that's living there, that want to vote, we just got to make sure the two connect, the landlord and the tenant connect.
Gotcha. I understand. So it's about 3 that I know of that
Are renters. Yeah.
rent on my side, on the river side, and the second house on the riverside coming into the subdivision, that's the Airbnb.
Yeah, but we got about, I know, yeah, it is. And we also have we have about 10 or maybe 12 houses on that street that are rental properties. So either way, at least knowing their mailing list, we can work that. That's doable. So my question to you, David, is if I have the same list that you have, is there a way we can cross-reference, or is your list, is it private? Because if I know who has already submitted, that will save us time. But if I can cross-reference my list with yours, and you said we haven't gotten anything from 2809 or whatever the address is, then that gives me, room to go and check that person to see if they received it. So can we cross-reference our list?
I've got 2 definite answers and 1 maybe. So I can definitely send you the list of people who we're sending postcards to with unique IDs removed for obvious reasons. And I can also, in the middle of the ballot period, say maybe like a week to 2 weeks before it closes, I can check and see how the vote is going. And then, if we've got 2 no's and 16 yeses, you can probably, relax. And if it's like really close and you want to go, make sure some people vote if they don't know, that'll be good information for you to have. What I'll do is check with NDOT about telling you specifically who's voted. That might be a problem. Just
it will be. Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, no. Just disregard that question. Don't worry about it. But I have a way that we can cross-reference without violating anybody's privacy or whatever. We got it. That's what I needed to know. The last thing is just a magic number, or for instance, out of 50, how many would you need? Give me the 60% mark. Give me a number. So if I had 60 houses, how many are you saying is that 66%? Give me a number.
You said at least 2/3.
Yeah, but I know, but my little brain need, give me a number out of 60. If you say, hey, we got 25 votes, then we're good. Give me a number.
So if there are 60 properties along the street, 2/3 of that is 40. So if we got 40 yeses in the first,
okay, because I work with the numbers back.
No possible way.
That's what I need. We're good. We're gonna be good. We're good.
We haven't had that happen before, because typically on a traffic calming project, around a quarter of people will actually wind up voting, which is really low, but it's actually like better than most elections, believe it or not.
We're good, because just like now, like I said, I'm looking at 26 people, and that's just within a few hours of, Mr. Gilbert canvassing the street and talking to people. So I don't see a problem us getting the number that we need. I just needed a number in my head. We're good.
Yeah, but just as a reminder, it's out of respondents, so I don't expect this to happen. But in a world where, say, like 3 people voted, if 2 of them are yeses, that's 66%, and that project succeeds and moves forward. So it's 66% of people who vote, not out of the total houses.
We're good.
That's your question about the ballot. I couldn't hardly see it. So they just put their name, address, and the unique ID on the ballot. Is that all they have to put on there?
So you won't actually do anything with the postcard itself. The postcard will tell you how to access either the online form that you fill out your name, address, unique ID, and then vote yes or no, or you can call NDOT and they'll do the same.
Okay, because I just wanted some people beside me or around me to be expecting this. So, you know, they might ask me, what all do I have to do? So I just wanted to tell them to be expecting something. I didn't know what they had to do though. So
you're going to get one. You're going to get one yourself.
I was just trying to tell my neighbors, people around me, just to be looking out for it. You know, they might ask me, well, what all do I have to do? So,
yeah. And I can see a lot of them just opting to call just to save time.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the postcard is not self-addressed. I mean, stamp. So I can see a lot of them just opting to call in. I mean, I'm just saying.
Just call
but
it,
Mr.
give them that unique number, and that's all they have to do. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Greaves, so are we okay with just moving forward?
Yeah, I haven't heard anyone express that they want a second meeting. So we're happy to just do the design, post the plans, and then send the postcards to you all. And I'm also available for questions as well. So you can have my contact information here. That is not it's not email.com. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for just a hot second here and correct that.
So the next thing is going to be you sending it out. And
that's correct.
You're going to let me know, let our council lady know, and either way, what is your timeline of sending it out? Next week, by the end of next week, or what are we doing?
It would be about that fast if I wasn't adding the bulb outs to the design. Those, I mean, it's not going to take a ton of time, but
we're just looking at within a couple of weeks, not another 4 months.
No. Yeah, it'll be less than a month for sure. We just need to finish the design for the feedback we've received tonight, and then once it's ready, we'll post the plans, send the ballots, and let you all know we just sent the ballots out. You know, be on the lookout for them.
Okay. And do I send you my email, or do I need to talk with my council person and make sure, what do you need? Because I wouldn't want you having to notify 50 people. So I
won't do any communicating with like a huge group, but I'm happy to take any questions. So you can either email me at this email address, or if you'd like to tell me or put your email in the chat, I'm happy to reach out to you as well, just to get in touch.
I'll put my email in the chat. Let me figure out how I do this chat thing. I'm trying to, not to everyone. I'll send it to you. Yeah. Yeah, I just need to know when it's going out so that way we can be on the lookout. Okay.
Great.
And then I will be I talk to her often, pretty much like every other day, to just let her know, because I thought she was going to be on here as well. But either way, I'll just let her know she'll let me know when you let her know. So that way, if you just have to go that way. Either way, I just want to know when it goes out so we can start moving on it.
Yeah, understood.
Good deal.
Great. Well, that's all I've got for this presentation. Do we have any more questions or things we need to circle back to talk about before we wrap up?
One more last thing. I'm sorry. One more last thing.
Yeah, no.
Okay, on the diagram, you had construction. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but it says 8 to 10 months for construction. So will that change? Or I know things happen sometimes. We've been waiting for forever to get Clarksville Highway.
Yeah, so that is a great question. Hopefully it will change. This 8 to 10 months estimate is based on about how many we were doing in 2023. What we know is in 2024, we've brought another contractor on board, and they're actually getting these projects done a little bit quicker. So if it changes, it should change to less time, but 8 to 10 months is an optimistically conservative estimate for how long it takes. But we go in order. There is quite a backlog at the moment, so it's not that they take 8 to 10 months to build. It only takes like a week or two to get these installed. There's just a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't take long at all. Once they start, they do it. Because look how long of a street Hinkle is.
Yeah.
And it only took them maybe 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Because once they got out and got it done.
Okay. Thank you, David.
I'm waiting on Panorama and Snail. So David, can you see where we are on that? Email me to let me know.
Yeah, I'll look into it. There's not at least one that I have. There's not a list that I have access to that's just like, this is exactly which ones we're doing when. But I'd be happy to take a look, and if NDOT has any idea, like roughly where y'all are.
I can't think of the name of the person that was on that Zoom meeting, but if it's anything I'll find that person as well. But I just want to know where we are on that one.
Yeah.
Because that was participatory budget money. And my thing is following the money. If they got the money, I want to know what they're doing with it. But that's never mind.
Yeah, they're not going to do anything besides build the traffic calming project.
Oh yeah, they're going to do it. But I'm just saying, they've been sitting on it since 2022. So wherever that money is sitting, it wasn't supposed to be sitting there collecting interest. But never mind. Push pause. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, yeah, y'all, thanks for coming. Really appreciate the good feedback. And we'll just look for an update from me once we get those designs posted.
And you said this will be on YouTube. You recorded your presentation.
That's correct. I'll probably edit out the part where I was gone, but some version of this meeting's video recording will be posted to YouTube.
Is there a way you can let me know? How will I know it's out there?
I
don't want to give you homework. I don't want to give you homework. I'll give you time.
No, I'm happy to do whatever homework y'all want. I'll make a note, and if I see it pop up on YouTube, I'll let you know. I don't have access to upload videos to NDOT's YouTube page.
That's fine.
So we send it up a chain, and it gets there eventually. But it should be within like a week or so.
That's fine. No problem.
Okay. I just want to thank everybody.
That was my last question.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, David, and you too, Dylan, and everybody for joining this Zoom call. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. He got out there gone, but I'm telling you, he pounded the pavement, and he got out there, and he was on his way to class, and still, hey, Miss Baker, I got one more person, So yeah, they have been patiently waiting on this, and now it's here. So thank you so much. Y'all have a good night.